My name is Marc Helou, and this is my presentation of just another JAMF dashboard. I'm coming to you from the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, a DOE research facility, and more specifically from the Computing Sciences Research Division. A quick overview of what this morning's going to look like, quick intro on myself, what this thing is, why I created it, why you all might want to use it. We've got a short little demo of sorts. Some takeaways, and then at the very end I've got a QR code so you can potentially grab the template. So this September is going to be my 15-year anniversary in the San Francisco Bay Area, living and working up there professionally. I started my career at a notable fruit stand selling iPhones and iPads, and very quickly moved up to troubleshooting those Macs and iPads at the Genius Bar, spending about 4.5 years in total supporting the bar operations at the downtown San Francisco Apple Store. The rest of that time, you can actually see the majority of my prior workplaces in this lovely photo of the Bay Area. Some of those places have included some notable big tech companies, startups, fintech, venture capital, higher ed, health and medical, and advertising and media, pretty wide berth. And a lot of that is due to some time at a lovely little consulting agency in San Francisco where I got exposed to many of those areas. But that's also where I got my JAMF 200 certification and got to get my hands dirty on a lot of really great areas and to see some really unique setups and best practices. And this is actually the view from my current job from the Lawrence Berkeley lab. This is the view out of one of my buildings. No, I don't have an office view, not like this. But it's a very unique environment. I'm not doing IT at the high level for the lab. So I'm not doing identity and access management, onboarding and offboarding at that big kind of scale. I'm down inside of the the Computing Sciences Research Division. It's just a small team. There's 3 of us in total, and we focus more on hardware and lifecycle management, the AV and conference room systems in the room, and the day-to-day operations that go into the research division. I focus more on the Mac support and, of course, the JAMF, and then my other 2 colleagues are a little bit busier managing Linux workstations, some computational research servers, and some web servers as well. Yes, I've been there since May of 2023 now. So, what is this thing? Well, it's meant to be just a nice way to get a high-level view of your whole environment. Something that can give both your technicians and also your stakeholders a slightly different perspective than what JAMF gives you. The JAMF dashboard is really awesome, but it's geared more for technicians and did this policy run or did it not run and did it fail? My goal with this was really to have a different view and be able to show my colleagues, exactly what's running under the hood in a different way. This was also very helpful for me in terms of planning out changes and kind of my ongoing development cycle. And it was also really beneficial for maintenance needs, just in terms of organizing and getting an idea of what the maintenance is going to look like for the environment. Because, right, nothing is just click and play and you get to leave it alone. So why did I create this? Well, part of the job really was to bring JAMF into the loaner fleet for the computing sciences area. Now, most of the time through the year, we deploy maybe 2 to 4 loaners a month. It's really not that much. However, we're a research division, and kind of especially being attached to Cal, we have a summer research program. And so during this period, we may be deploying anywhere from 5 to 20 laptops a week for 3 weeks. So I mentioned that I started in May of 23. So that first month, I helped configure about 50 machines, all artisanally handcrafted. Thank you. So obviously, the goal is we want to have JAMF for a faster setup time and, not have to worry about those pesky Apple IDs and activation locks. In terms of planning things out, this was really great because I was effectively starting from scratch here. My first time starting the environment from scratch. Now, the little caveat there is that the infrastructure was already there. The computing sciences had a site. It had just been kind of neglected and sad, and it wasn't really working anymore. So the first thing that I did was I took control of my site, cleaned it out, got rid of the policies and everything that I did not need, and I really wanted to start from scratch. I'm also still a bit of a fledgling scripter, so this was a really big project for me. Now, I apologize for the potential kernel panics that this may cause, but one of the things that I did in being the good fledgling developer that I'm trying to be, in order to keep my prod and my dev separate, I made a second JAMF site. I've gotten a lot of strange looks when I've mentioned that to my colleagues, and they all just like, what were you talking about? I'm like, I made a dev site and a production site for inside of JAMF, so I've got two of those. And the only weird thing is that in my scripts, I'm using prefixes. I've got prod and dev, but I've got duplicate scripts in there. But it's worked very well in terms of being able to test reliably and not mess with the live environment. And sort of, the third point, why I created this, to help keep my team in the loop. There's only three of us. We all have access to the JSS. That's not really the question. It's mainly just being able to see at a glance exactly what's going on and in a slightly simplified view as well. Especially with other stakeholders and group leads who may have questions about what this fancy device management is that we're starting to roll out. This was also helpful. The other two colleagues of mine, while they've got lots of experience, JAMF and MDM was still a bit on the newer side for them, and so this was a slightly easier way to kind of explain, all right, there's these policies, this is really what they're doing, this is the simplified, super simplified view of it without getting distracted by all of the toggles and buttons and pretty colorful icons that are now in JAMF. Okay, so why would you guys want to use this? Well, hopefully for some of the reasons I was just rambling on about. You might want to be able to quickly reference what's going on in your environment from that different perspective, and also plan some of your changes before going into that dev site as well. Keeping your stakeholders in the loop, whether they're technical or not. Nobody really likes having to manage permissions and these scoped roles inside of all these tools. So this potentially could be another way to let people see what's going on without actually having to get them access into your console. If you've got new technicians, whether they're familiar with an MDM tool or not, this could still be a nice way to introduce them to what's going on under the hood, easing them into your systems without granting them all the access right away, in that kind of idea. I also have the sort of bonus advantage of this maintenance tab to help keep myself organized. The main idea with this tab was not to literally quantify the amount of work that's going to be needed for some of these tasks, but more so to set an expectation of the work required. It may take 5 minutes one time, it may take an hour the next time, but more, hey, we need to set aside this time. This is a recurring task. We've got to focus on it. Now, a little caveat, because as you probably saw in those last screenshots, there's a lot of stuff to fill in. So this may be a little bit more ideal for a smaller environment or for folks who are just working on a brand new deployment in that sense. I can totally see how larger environments might see this as a little unwieldy to maintain. However, to that point, and also to the point of an earlier session this week, which is going to make me reprioritize this investigation, there could be an opportunity to enhance this with some API scripting. At the very least, getting the information down from your JSS to populate the sheet, but that's something I have yet to dive into in my adventures here. Okay, so now we've got a bit of a demo. What I'm going to show you first is actually the template when you get it, once you duplicate it in your environment, in your Google page. I've got the link back to the README on my GitHub, which is where it'll be linked originally. And there's really just a couple of URLs you have to update and a couple of references for the pre-stage enrollment. Certainly, if there's other customizations you'd want to make, you're more than welcome to do it, and then just fill in your data. Now, the URLs, the front of the dashboard here is using import range. So what you're going to do, you're just going to grab your new URL from the HTTPS down to the edit, pop it inside of the quote marks there, get rid of that bang, and then your sheet starts coming to life. I've got some formatting, some color formatting already, and then there's also two other formulas on the maintenance tab as well. But we're going to dive into an admittedly old copy of my sheet, snapshot of my dashboard here. So here on the header columns of these, we have the import range formula. Everything's coming in from all these other tabs downstream. And just as you can see, we can see what's going on in the environment, what's running and what's not. The conditional formatting, which is all going to stay there once you get a copy of this. I'm a very visual person, so feel free to tweak them as you like. My team, we have a logs and notes doc, a separate doc, which is more of a stream of consciousness, if you will, other thoughts and ideas that we have and things that we're working on within the MDM. So if you have additional resources, feel free to add them in there as well. Okay, so the pre-stage enrollments, zoom this in just a little bit for everybody. So really just meant to keep it very simple. What pre-stage enrollments do we have? What payloads are we using? Is it working? Is it in development? We've got all of the drop-down menus that are in there. Of course, sadly, our test and development environment is always going to be stuck in development. But the loaner pool is live, so for the most part, we just call that live. As you can see in the AV systems, I am using a second payload to actually create a conference user in the background, and that's just the one extra thing I'm adding there, so there we have it. And in the policies. Now, the first thing, if you haven't already wondered about the numbers on the side there, those have two benefits as it's kind of turned out for my workflow. The first is that it actually helped, not just help me like structure out my policies in terms of order of operations, how I want them to run, but it actually turns out to help JAMF run them in sequence correctly more often than not. Before I put the numbers in there, I was lamenting to a friend. I was like, some days it runs in the right order that I want it to, and some days it doesn't. It runs it in different orders. And he was like, oh, just throw numbers in there. And it was a wonderful revelation. I'm also using the number sequences, because you'll see there's some breaks in there, for some basic concepts, like 0 to 99, the sort of non-negotiables. These are the frameworks that I need to be able to do the things that I want to do once I'm in the user environment, once I'm running the setup. The 100s are the sort of niceties, set avatars, set wallpapers, and then 200 onward are apps and that sort of thing. Everything here has the same quick drop-downs. You're probably testing against the latest and maybe the least latest OS version. Here, again, to keep it simple, is it a policy? Is it running on some kind of automated mode, or is it only available through self-service? Is it a script or a package? Am I using Composer or Auto Packager, maybe some other service? And then these columns here, this is how I wanted to address the question of sorts of scoping, like who's going to get these machines. I didn't want to get into like, all right, this is scoped to these machines do have this app and don't have this app and yada, yada, yada. I wanted to keep it nice and simple, so we just see, all right, if you're in the loaner pool, you're going to be running these policies here. And then the notes and links section was very handy just for my own note-taking as I'm building out these scripts, keeping links and the like in close reach. All right, and configuration profiles, again, really straightforward. What's scoped? Is it working? Is it happy? Extension attributes. We've got something that we need to deprecate because a deployment changed, and so now I don't need to look for this thing, and it's throwing funny errors. And yeah, all right, so now the maintenance tab. I'm going to zoom out a little bit for this one. So initially, I had 3 areas of focus, and earlier, pre-stage enrollments, policies, and smart groups. And this week has reminded me that I don't own my own infrastructure. So if you guys decide to adopt this, you probably might want to add in a section for your certification renewals, APNS, and that sort of thing with your MDM. Just something to help you schedule out when you want to have that. Make sure you have a calendar event as a reminder. That's sort of the basic idea behind this. So the pre-stage enrollment, again, we're using import range here to pull in that information, just the titles of them. What is the maintenance that's going to be needed? Now in the test and dev, I have this as incidental because ideally I'm doing a pretty good job on my own of going into the pre-stage enrollment and knowing what devices are assigned in my test site. And I'm doing that kind of on the fly, but the loaner pool and the AV systems, we want to do a regular audit of, and so we have that scheduled out in March. What is really great about this being in a Google Sheet is you've got the smart chips. So, once you make your calendar event, you can just put the reference in there. It's maybe just a little bit quicker for you to be able to find it, and you've got that reference and scheduled out. Now for the policies, this is where the numbering sequence brought in a second benefit. Because I did not want to have to recreate this calendar concept on multiple sheets, because I knew that was just going to be a little too messy. So import range again, and the policy sequence is letting me keep this organized and in line with any changes that I might be doing with my policies as I add a policy or remove a policy. And again, what my frequency is, what I'm wanting to do with these installers. Some of these installers are coming from other IT teams in LBL, so at the Lawrence Berkeley Lab. And so, these are VPN and security tools. These are things that self-heal on their own. But as you can kind of see with the summer session, I want to make sure that in April, before the summer session, I get the latest installer. I know I have that ready, and we're not, wasting any weird time for these tools to update over during that setup process. So now some of these installers I've also updated. I'm not using packages for Zoom anymore in Google Drive. I've got those curling now. This was an old snapshot, but this was still really helpful. And again, from that statement of that expectation of work, this lets you kind of illustrate to your management teams, your other stakeholders. You're like, hey, we've got a lot of maintenance that we have to do. When you ask for something like this, we need to set time aside and make sure that people know that we got other going-ons with the environment. And then the third item is smart groups. Again, I kept this super simple, but the main one was Mac OS versions, right? You're probably at some point rolling over your Mac OS versions, probably every September when Apple tends to release another one of those things. So there you have the maintenance sheet. You've got sort of the big counter on top, so you can see where the busy months are, where they're not. Obviously, you're looking at your calendar in finer detail to see where in the month you're scheduling it and how you're doing that, how much time you're allocating. But this has been great to make sure I'm staying on top of my maintenance needs in that sense. Okay, we're doing pretty well on time here. There we go. Okay, so a couple of tidbits and takeaways. So again, the numbering policies, that ended up being super duper helpful and really beneficial, and both keeping me organized and making sure that JAMF is doing things in the order that I want it to. Dev and prod as different JAMF sites. It's maybe not the most orthodox way to do it, but it works really well for me. For local VM testing, I ended up finding this nifty little app. This is not a endorsement directly. I'm not getting paid for this in any way. But UTM was there, and I can make a little snapshot dev environment, install some of my tools, set some of my settings, clone it, rip the dev box to shreds, and then refresh it whenever I need. And that was just a very handy little resource in my workflows. GitHub projects and issues. This may go without saying, but our team is a little bit small. We don't have really big project management tools, fancy tools like Jira and things like that. And admittedly, I was kind of starting to replicate a lot of these features in my dashboard, and then I realized that GitHub had these wonderful resources for me, and so setting up projects and creating issues and being able to keep myself organized in there became really beneficial as well. Now, Slack workflows to complement. So, you probably have a channel with your GitHub plugged in, and it's just screaming about every single commit and merge and branch and this and that and whatever. I pay attention in that channel. I don't necessarily expect my other two guys to pay attention in that channel, but I want to make sure that they know when I've made a release. I've adopted using releases to kind of mark my big development cycles. And so I've got change logs and notes about all the policy changes and configuration changes and et cetera, et cetera. And so when I finish that on GitHub and it posts in my channel, I made this little workflow. So I put a little emoji reaction. It has this message. It basically cross-posts it into our normal team channel. So it just highlights it a little bit better. It lets my guys be able to quickly jump to some of these notes, especially in the moment during the day when I'm making these releases. But of course, you've got GitHub there as well. And then for the calendar for maintenance, this was a little bit more for my own kind of keep myself accountable. There we go. I have the maintenance item. I want to make sure that I am logging somewhere, somehow, that I am doing the maintenance. This doesn't necessarily need to be a ticket in any of our systems for, in that respect. And so I have the calendar chiming in when I have these events. It's posting in the JAMF channel. And so this reaction is, I put a check mark on it, which means, yes, I did the maintenance. Yes, it worked smoothly. We're still running good. Or, hey, I had some issues. We're having some trouble. I'm going to make some notes. I'm going to update the dashboard. Because, maybe it's something quick and easy, some little thing that I can adjust and fix right away inside of that maintenance window. But if not, I'm probably going to go back to my dashboard. I'm going to say, hey, I'm having errors on this. I'm going to make a GitHub issue, and I'm going to make sure that I follow up on it later on in the day or later on in the week as I have time. Okay, so if you guys are so interested, I've got this hanging out on my GitHub. Scan that QR code. You'll be able to get a copy of the template, duplicate it into your Google Sheets, your Google account, and update the URLs and start making additional references and customizations as you may desire. And gosh, the caffeine is running today. I'm 7 minutes ahead of my normal time. So this is perfect. If anybody has any questions about the experience or anything else here. I don't get to throw the catch box? No? All right, well, in that case, we've got a question, yes. All right, in the back row. Almost.
Oh, it almost came right back to you.
Hi, I see that you're using Google Spreadsheet for that. Is there any way that it can be migrated to Microsoft Office or?
Yeah, well, Yeah, I mean, it would be pretty easy to migrate it over to Microsoft. I think the big question would be how they handle what their equivalent of the import range formula is going to be for their Excel world. In terms of how you can get a copy, if I recall, I think Google will let you create an account with a non-Google domain. And so that might let you just jump in with your organization, be able to create a copy that way, and then you can download it directly from Google and start playing with it over in Excel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
but yeah, the main thing would be the whatever the Excel equivalent of import range would be in that formula. That'd be the biggest change in essence, and conditional formatting, most likely you'd have to tweak that as well, but certainly.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. Cool. Well, if there's no other questions, we can just kind of hang out. Feel free to linger. I'll hang out up here as well if there are any other questions, but thank you very much for coming this morning.